Hey everybody, it's Doom here, and we're back in the 3.5 Monster Manual, and we are working on the Halfling. This is a pretty basic race. It's nothing fancy. It's one of the starter races out of the Player's Handbook. And something. I don't know. Does it have any sub-races? It has, what, like the Tall Fellow and the Lightfoot. I have a ton of, Deep Halflings. I don't know. What about the tall fella? I don't have any tall fellas. Which might work out well, because here's what I've grabbed out of my box. This is a little bit small for a halfling. This is a little bit fat for a halfling, but it could be one still. And then I have these Lord of the Rings hobbits from HeroClix, and they actually might be ideal if we're going to make a tall fellow halfling, which I don't have a tall fellow halfling, as I just said. So let's get started with that and make an effort on a tall fellow halfling. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is get some stupid glue and fill in our base. Then we're going to select a halfling, which I think the best one to pick for this would be maybe this guy. I think it's supposed to be Frodo. I don't know. No. I don't know if it's Frodo, man. Might be Frodo. Let's get him centered somewhere on the base how we want him. And I didn't get a good bond, so we're going to try that again. We're just going to get a little bit more of the super glue on here. I think I didn't get a good bond. I'm not sure. I don't want to rip at him and see. Oh, I did get a good bond, I guess. Maybe I had one before. Who knows? Alright. So we can throw all these guys back in the could be a halfling Monday box. Where's that at? Oh, I left it on top. Nice. It's actually a box of out-of-scale miniatures. I'm going to get a toothbrush, clean up this base real quick. And then because he is this real smooth plastic and I didn't grind him or sand him at all, I'm going to hit him with clear coat, enamel clear coat real quick before I actually base coat him in black. And he doesn't have an enormous amount of detail to begin with, so let's just assume this is not going to be a fun paint job, and that we're probably not going to be able to use speed paint, because with no detail, speed paint just does not pay off. So I'm going to get him primed real quick, if you want to be patient for me, because this doesn't need to be 2 videos. For my first trick. Enamel primer. Hot air gun, a burning +2. You guys can't see what I'm doing, so I'll just bring him over here and see I'm just hitting him with the hot air gun. Mostly because I know you guys like magic items. And I'm going to take him over and hit him with the black over at the booth, and I'll be right back. Now, I don't have ideal lighting over at my booth, just so you guys know, so if I missed a couple spots, we'll just have to pick those up as we go. In the daylight, I can see over there perfect because it's by the outside and the light streams in. But at night, I just have like a little garage light bulb over it, and it's not ideal. So I hope I didn't hit them too thick. We'll soon know. Let's hit him with the +2 hot air gun. It looks like I did hit him pretty thick. See how shiny he is? So if you're worried about that being tacky when you go to paint him, you can hit him again with the enamel. But I'll tell you, if you're using that clear coat, you got to be careful because you will lose all detail on Earth with the quickness. That's just what happens. It's an unfortunate side effect of being quick and cheap and hurrying. Now, You're going to have mistakes, and you're going to have miniatures you're not happy with. That's just the game, right? I'd be setting a bad example for you on saving time and money if I were to scrap this guy and repaint one right now. Start over. So we're going to make this guy work, okay? And there's still some detail here, but there wasn't a whole lot to begin with. Okay? I'm going to come back again with that white on him because I need to see what's going on with his face a little better and lighten that up. All right, so that's what we have to work with. Not a whole bunch of detail. All right, not a problem. Now, because this is a hobbit from Lord of the Rings, he doesn't have any shoes on. So, D&D Halfling lore kind of dictates that they do wear shoes, but we can do it however the hell we want because it's our miniature and we're going to do it our way. So let's start out with some tape. If I can figure out how to operate it. There we go. And let's get in and do all his flesh first. So I'm going to get a small, tiny brush. Some of this tanned flesh. I haven't used this for a while. Here we go. And I'm going to try really hard to keep this in the frame while I'm doing it. Now, this is a dark, like, I've lived out in the sun barbarian color. But mind you, this is just a base coat. We are going to come back and lighten this up. So if you're looking at this and thinking, oh my gosh, this guy looks like he's been at the beach. Yeah, well, he does. For now. But again, we will come back and we will rectify that. Okay. We just want to make sure we get a good even coat on his flesh parts, which he doesn't have much of. Now, and tomorrow comes doom. I got rid of halflings and gnomes and stuff, and I just made a generic race called wee folk. Because I was trying to cut down on things that were lore reliant on D&D lore, and still have something that fit into those categories for playstyle, but because like having a gnome and a halfling is a D&D thing, what I did is they're just subtypes of wee folk. So if you want to play a gnome, the gnomen are just a subtype of wee folk, and their attributes don't change really, but what they had the regular wee folk attribute changes, but the proficiencies they have change because they're more interested in coins and stuff. And so gnome, kinder, and halfling are all called something different, but they're just types of wee folk you could play that have strategic changes to their, mostly for role-playing aspect, to their personality types. Now we need some pants. And there might be just enough detail in those pants to use a speed paint for that. But since we're not using speed paints for now, I think the safer bet would be, let's get this oak brown and just do it in regular paint. Okay. Now my brush is damp. Now, if you use a thin enough coat, since these are army painters, and your brush is a little bit too damp, you can drag this around enough to where you won't even need to come back and really do a dry brush, because with the way we prime, the way I prime, you'll actually get enough variation to where it kind of naturally looks like fabric. However, my brush wasn't all that damp, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to pull that off. But again, these are the kind of things that you learn, like when you have painted hundreds of miniatures or thousands of miniatures. You start finding techniques that work for you, that you kind of learn accidentally over time, or you perfect accidentally over time. And when I'm painting with you guys here, I tend to just kind of use tried and true, easy, quick painting methods and techniques. I don't try to use anything new, fancy, or things that I just do that I don't know if other people do or not. And I think that's because I want everybody to feel like they can do the same thing I'm doing. It's important. But I do have a ton of weird painting tricks I use that are probably nonsensical. This is called skeleton bone. It's an off-white, and I'm going to use this to do his undershirt. Pardon me, I'm dying. Now, mind you, this is a good starter brush that I'm using here. This is the starter brush from Army Painter. I have a couple of these, and I've actually only ever used this one yet. I've not taken the plastic off the other ones yet, the little like tube that they come with. Because if you take care of these brushes, they just seem to last forever. I've had this one for years, and it is so good. And I've just never needed anything else with it. So here's our guy now. He's starting to come together. Now his little surcoat there, his little outer coat, I think what I want to do with that is something green. So let me see what I got over here. I have this green skin. Let's try it. I don't know if that's mixed up enough. Let me shake that again. Okay. That looks pretty mixed up. I don't know if I grabbed enough though. Threw my brush in my mouth to make sure I didn't have any excess wetness. One thing when you're doing these kind of smaller miniatures, drag marks from your brush, like big brush marks, tend to be super noticeable. And if you guys saw the Snurv Neblin, I made that little, I don't even know what it was, I turned into a Snurv Neblin, some little mini I had. If you're doing this kind of stuff on these small guys, make sure you're using a paint that's either thinned down enough or that you know the consistency of. Because I'll tell you what, man, it is super noticeable on little guys when you have drag lines. Unless you don't mind that. You know, some people don't care. Maybe that's the choppy style you're going for. Everybody has their own preferences. Maybe you like yours to have that kind of to look like it's been painted, you know. You want it. I just get mine good enough for tabletop quality, but maybe you have like a cool, unique style you've developed. I don't know. Everybody's different. I've gone through different phases of what I like my miniatures to look like over the years. I used to be really into super grim darky miniatures, and then right around the time that speed paint or contrast paints came out, not speed paints, I started getting more interested in using more color because it was just a new thing for me, you know. I never bought bright colors. I only ever bought a bunch of dim stuff. Unless I was dyeing flock or making some kind of custom terrain, I'd buy colors for that. But mostly I just use Darkies stuff. That was the style I liked, and probably I have thousands of miniatures that are painted that way. Unfortunately, I actually did miniatures for other people over the years, and I feel really bad because I didn't even realize, they didn't complain about them. They were happy to pay for the paint jobs, but I didn't realize how much potential there was in still having a gritty looking world and using bright colors. You can have both. But I was just so convinced. I had this Conan-esque filter over my eyes about how the world should look. And I also, for as much history as I have read and took classes for and stuff, I didn't know much about medieval color. I assumed all peasants wore brown from watching movies and Monty Python and stuff. But there's actually a lot more to that world. There were bright colors. It was actually very schwank to have white clothing. It wasn't standard. Bleaching clothing was an expensive process. I had no idea. We're starting to get a good look here. Let's get another brown. This is Monster Hunter, or Monster Brown, not Monster Hunter. We're going to use a little bit of that just on the sheath and the strap. I'm assuming this is Sting, just with a poor design Sting. What color hair do you think he should have? I wish you guys could tell me right now. I got several redheaded gnomes and halflings and stuff because one of my players that plays all the time likes to play smaller characters. And he has red hair. Well, he had bright red hair when we were little. But he has red hair in real life, so he often plays redheaded characters that have his voice. Even the female ones that he plays have his voice. This is kind of his thing. So I don't really have blonde or black-haired ones for the most part. I have a lot of brown-haired ones. I think a lot of the pre-painted ones you get, which I don't have a whole bunch of those, they tend to have brown hair. I kind of like him with white hair, though. I'm not sure how that's going to look, though. So, on this side, if you look, crap. I did not leave that little piece of hair open, and on this side, I left it open. And I think it looks better like his hair's combed behind his ear. So, I'm going to get a lot of the moisture out of my brush with my mouth real quick. And I'm just going to come take that little bit of flesh right there back. So it looks like his hair's kind of behind his ear some, because I think it looks better. All right, let's do his hair in blonde. So you want to do blonde hair, you don't base coat in yellow. Sometimes you don't even use yellow depending on the miniature. What you want to use is like a beige. So this is called territorial. I'm not going to use a craft paint. Hold on, let me put that back. We're going to use that Monster Brown as our base coat because it's kind of a darker beige. We're just going to get a little bit more of that out. Sweet. We're going to do his hair. You want a little bit of moisture in your brush though, okay? Not like from your mouth, like get a little bit extra like from your paint water, because you don't want to accidentally overwhelm that flesh tone. Now, since this is watered down, it's also going to allow some of that natural shading we did with our dry brush with the white at the beginning. It's going to allow some of that to kind of pop out too. So that's where we're at with our dude now. We're going to hit him with the +2 hot air gun of burning and start bringing some of these tones down to rational levels we can enjoy. I don't think we're going to need this, but I'm just going to set it up here in case. I'm going to hit him with the +2 hot air gun. Alright, so for the flesh tone, I'm going to get a brand new piece of cardboard. I'm going to get a little bit of this lighter mummy robes color here. And I'm going to steal some of the tanned flesh that we used earlier to do his base coat. Okay. I'm just going to steal some of that. And I'm going to steal a little bit of this mummy robes. And I'm going to make a tone that we can create a variation with. So that when we do our final dry brush, he has a realistic undertone. So what I'm going to do is just slap this on lightly around, almost like I'm doing a dry brush, but this is still fairly wet. And I'm just going to catch some of that detail. And this is going to create a more realistic variation undertone than that super dark tanned flesh. And you want to make sure you get his feet. If you need a little bit more, grab a little bit more. And just lighten him up to a less I've been to the beach tone. Something like that. Then, grab a tiny bit more of that mummy robes. Something like that. And a teeny bit of that monster brown. And give it a little bit more of a real tan color than a pink color. And you can see the difference here on my cardboard, where how I'm like measuring down the color, right? Okay. And then we're just going to brush, picking up the highest points only. Without a whole lot of attempt at detail here. This is going to be our easy dry brush stage for this. There's no musculature to capture, so we don't need to come back and use any kind of intent detail. And because of the natural shading of his eyes and how low his hairline is, we don't have to worry about eyebrows or painting his eyes. From a few inches away on the tabletop, it looks like he's got eyes. There's not just a blank, generic face there. If there's any spots that you need to pick up, just come back through and hit those real quick, and then be happy with the color you got. And when you are, you can quit. Now the next part we're going to do is his hair. And so for his hair, I'm going to steal some of this demonic yellow, which is a bright yellow. I'm just going to get a little dab of that. And I'm going to steal some of that monster brown we used earlier, that like beige brown. And I'm going to mix those together and get a kind of a dirty blonde color. And we're going to wipe a lot of that off. And we're going to come back and we're going to throw some variation level on his hair with that. And this is also going to add some contrast in the high and low areas. Okay. So that's all we did there. And then we're going to get that same color, and we're going to get a dab of that mummy robes and go right in the middle of that. And you might need a little more yellow with this. You might. You'll see when you get there. Need a little more mummy robes. And what we're doing now is creating the blonde look. So this is just a very muted yellow. You can wipe a lot of that off and then come back. And this should be fairly dry by now. And you're just going to touch around until you have a good variety of that across his head in different spots. Be careful you don't hit his ears, and keep it off his face. And now he's got a pretty good looking blonde hair. So let's go. Blonde for me is really hard, by the way. Actually, like for me, like when you talk about painting different skin tones, painting fantasy skin tones like ebonies and greens and stuff sometimes go pretty well. When it comes to painting black people or darker skinned humanoids, I tend to do okay. But when I paint like light, fair skinned people and stuff, I really struggle finding the right tone. First of all, for me, because I am actually super, super dark. And so I can't look at myself as a representation for these very fair-skinned people. I have, medium to dark brown hair. I have black eyebrows. I have very dark skin. So, I mean, I don't have a good reference point. Pardon me. All right, so for this green, let's lighten that up. So to lighten that up, we're going to take this color here, which is Goblin Green, which is kind of a step down from that green that we had. And we're going to squirt some of this out and look at it. And it's just a little bit lighter, and it's good because in a 3-pack of paints, if you were to have like 3 that went together, this would naturally probably be the next tone down for that orc skin or whatever, green skin. So what we want to do is, am I in the frame? Yeah. We just want to kind of start up high and find some variation and drag this around. And what we want to also do is the spots that are kind of white where it shines through some, we want to make sure we're attentive to those, because we don't want any weird white spots on his clothing that look too bright. Like there's a little spot on his shoulder where the paint didn't really get good coverage. Oops. And all we're doing is creating some variation for the next tone down. That final tone, if you have two tones varied under it, will generally look a little more convincing and a little better if it's not all matte and flush underneath. I don't even really paint like this anymore, even though this is actually one of my favorite ways to paint, because it's not the quickest way. But he's starting to look good. Now, you're going to say, oh, don't do it, Doom. I'm going to get a little bit of this mummy robes and a little bit of this green. And I'm going to make my own lighter color right there using that. And that's very muted and a little unattractive. Okay. So we're wiping a lot of that off. Now, if you don't have one of these, you can make one. This is like a dry brush board. And you can kind of use this to look and see how much paint is left on your brush and what kind of result you might be looking at. So, I use cardboard and do that same thing a lot, but if you don't have a dry brush board, you can make one for free. Absolutely free. Okay, so for this, what we're doing is we're just kind of tagging all around on any textured parts that we can find. To make it look more like a natural fabric. Okay. And then what we want to do is we're going to get a little bit more of that and make it a little lighter. And see how if you're painting inside of your last area, you can definitely see the step down from that tone to the next. So see how in each one I'm just checking how much of a tone I want to drop it inside that last one. And then for this, we just want to do the very top parts. And we don't need to do it over the entire model to create the image, but we want to make the image that the light's coming from above him. And you don't have to put a whole lot of effort into that step. You can just kind of, I call it cheat it. So it definitely looks like the light's coming from above him now. It's a little darker as it goes down. But we didn't do anything fancy to capture that. We didn't dry brush everything to capture that look. All right, so I'm washing my brush again. And we used that, what color was that? Dark oak brown. We used that oak brown for the pants. So let's steal a little bit of that in our brush. And it's starting to dry up, so this is not ideal. And let's get a little bit of that monster brown. And let's make a step below to get a dry brush on the pants. So there's our regular color. right there. And we're just bringing it down one little bit. And you don't need a whole lot of effort on the pants here for this alternate tone. You just need something that you can kind of just pull it along a couple times and break it down. Then I'm just going to get a little bit of that white, that off-white. I'm going to mix it in the middle here until I think I have just enough tone to show. I'm just going to hit the backs of his pants. I'm going to wear his knees a little bit. And I'm just going to make a little streak right there on his thigh. Okay. All right, so I'm pretty happy with him at this point. But one thing I'm not real happy with is his sheath. It's super duper ugly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dress it up a little bit. So first I'm going to hit it with a little bit of variation so it doesn't look so uniform and monochromatic. Okay. Then I might just hit his knees with that a little bit lighter too. Just to more so capture that he crawls around and does small person things. I'm going to use the same color. I'm going to tap his shirt a little bit to add some grime so it's not so perfect. Okay. And I'm going to get a piece, a little bit of metal. And I'm going to do the bottom of his sheath as a metal thing. But I'm going to do the blade. And I'm going to do the blade. He's going to be one of these guys that takes care of his sword, so I'm using shining silver. And this little guy polishes his blade every day. You know, they're not marching, when they're resting or coming up with a plan, as he's discussing what he thinks his contribution to the plan should be, he is also dragging that whetstone along that blade and removing imperfections. That's his bag. I'm also going to get this gold here. This is called greedy gold. And I'm going to do a little dab on the top of the sheath, and I'm going to do the bottom of the sheath to add a little detail. Pardon me, just to pretty him up a little bit. So along the bottom of the sheath, we just want to see if there's there is a little ring knot there. We're going to pull that ring knot down and just turn the whole bottom part of the sheath into this gold metallic. Now, I am not a painting teacher or an anything teacher. I'm here just to show you guys how to get the monster manual on your table right now is my goal. So I don't want you guys to think that I am some kind of professional paint instructor. The only contests I have ever won were the kind of contests where you get like credit in a game store for winning. They were not real, big contests. I have no accolades as to speak of. So I'm just a guy who paints in my basement for fun. And I have painted in some game stores for some fun and won really chintzy prizes like gift certificates and stuff. So if you are here to learn how to paint, don't be. If you're here to learn how to paint quickly and lazily, I'm good for that. All right. We're going to get that brush put aside and get a new brush out. This is a fat brush. This is a size 3. And I'm getting some craft paint out now. This is burnt umber. I bought this at Walmart. It's like a couple bucks for this giant thing of paint that lasts for years, as long as you don't leave it open. And all I'm going to do is get in here and paint this base brown. First, I'm going to use this dark brown and coat the entire thing. And then I'm going to come back with a medium tone and break that up. If you go outside and take a photo of dirt, and then you take that photo and put it on your computer and take it into an editing program and look at it, dirt is got grays and blues and tans and sometimes some greens and black, not black like a dark gray, but dirt has a million colors in it and it's never all one color. So anytime I look at a base and see that it's all one color of brown, unless they just happen to paint the base brown, but if they're trying to make it like dirt, if I don't see a little bit of variation, it just irks the shit out of me. So I implore you to go out of your way and throw that extra little bit of dirt variation color on there. Maybe even 2 if you're feeling froggy. So This is my medium tone brown, and I'm not even cleaning my brush out. And I'm just going to drag that along in there. Try not to leave any brush lines. Just to create a little bit of variation that looks natural. And I'm grabbing this, my favorite color on earth, pavement. And I'm going to paint that rock. This is just another craft paint, cheap craft paint from Walmart. But this is actually my like go-to favorite color for many, many things. Like, even if I do an entire miniature and nothing but miniature paints like this dude was, when I come back to the base, I always use this color for the base coat of stone, no matter what. Because I do love this color. Leaving that in the brush, I'm just getting a medium gray. I'm going to steal a little bit of that. I'm going to wipe this out so it's a dark color, and I'm just going to touch where it's already wet and give it a little variation. Now I'm going to hit this with a +2 hot air gun to burn him, because we all love magic items. Once that looks pretty dry, I'm going to get a lighter gray. Something lighter than that medium tone I used, hopefully. I'm just going to dab of that. Okay. Then I'm just going to kind of drag it along that rock a little bit to break that up and make it look a little more natural. I think we're done with the cardboard now, except for one little more thing with it. Whoa, I dropped my glue gun, but don't worry, I caught it with my superpowers. Alright, we're going to get some clear glue. Maybe. There we go. Just a dab of clear glue there. That'll go a long way. Grab a crusty old toothpick that you've used for this probably 100 times. And then find little spots on the base where you think that flock could go. And you can use whatever kind of flock you have or you want to use. I have this old woodland scenic stuff that I did not make myself. It's like the only purchased flock I have. But it has this really vibrant, bright, mossy green that I like. So I have been putting it on miniatures for a couple of years now. And what you don't want when you're doing this is you don't want bubbles and you don't want straight edges. You want to jag up your grass area to look cool. Alright, so that's about as exciting as it gets right there. I'm going to dry him off. I'm going to hit him with a clear coat, and we'll take him up and check him out on the table, and that's our Halfling entry for the monster manual. Now, it did take us a little bit of time to get him based and base coated, and about a half hour to paint him. But for about 40 minutes of your time, putting something that looks decent enough on your table to be your tall foot, or whatever it was called, tall leg, I don't know, long leg Halfling, that's not bad. And considering that I got these miniatures for pennies on the dollar in bulk, it cost me pretty much, 30 cents at most to make this. That base is a poker chip piece. And the Halfling is a hero click that was like a bulk common. So, yeah, that's how we do this around here. Just keep it cheap, keep it fun. If you like what I'm doing here, please like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell icon, comment. Those are all things that help grow the channel and share it with other people. And then if you really like what we're doing and you want to financially help in some way, we don't have Patreon or sell anything like that, or not sell, We don't have any like begging stuff, but we do sell miniatures. So www.dungeon-swag.com. Link will be in the description, is our miniature site where we sell a monthly loot crate that comes with 6, 7, or 8 miniatures on average. Smaller ones might be more, larger ones might be slightly less. We try to stay away from larger ones. It's all based off of the weight of the resin and stuff because it's expensive to produce really good miniatures. It really is. So we make them at almost no profit. But we'd love to see you guys there. Buy some minis. We sell some one-offs. Any of the miniatures I've painted on the channel is a one-off. For example, the Half Fiend will be on there available. We also have a Discord. We'd love you to come join us on Discord. There's a discount code on the Discord right now for a free mini. Scorbic and I today talked about it. I guess we are out of free minis for the month, and he's going to add some extra free minis for the month on there because too many people have gotten them. We have a limit. We try to give out only 5 a month or something like that. But what happens is early in a month, sometimes you'll get a bunch of hits, and we had some left over from last month, and we can take the financial hit on that, so we will. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. The next entry, I believe, is Harpy. I don't have the book here. I set it down over there somewhere. So I'll see you then.